How do I do things? What is life? Hello, my name is Tolg, and I exist, therefore I think too much. It's been a while since I was just reading the chapters rather than the introduction. So for a minute I was saying I got to 30 and I realized I had not. I left off on 23, which puts me at chapter 24. And I didn't even tell you what I'm reading. Haha. Of The Mirror of Simple Souls, written by Marguerite, Porete, translated by Ellen Babinski. After the introduction, I am pretty sure that there is something lost in translation, but I stand firm in believing that it could have been a psychological break in the individual. I believe that, yes, it is a roadmap to a belief system that is worth investing time in. But the individual themselves, I think, had a lot going on in their life that, is more than simply a nonchalant individual going about spirituality, to put it very kindly. So, chapter 23 had a hell of a lot going on from just glancing at it, and it talked about taps and beverages. Getting drunk on love is what it seems to be. I will read not the last two paragraphs. Wow. Alright, the other thing about how she writes is that individual authorships say their part. So love will be discussing something and then reason will come in, and it's written as though it's a conversation between individualized entities that are concerned in this roadmap to pure godliness. So I will go over the last two paragraphs, and the second to last starts with love speaking. That is right, says love. The greater part makes her intoxicated, but not because she has drunk the greater part, as was said, but she is so inebriated because her lover, which is capitalized, has drunk from it. For between him and her, through transformation by love, there is no difference whatever there might be of natures. Love accomplishes this transformation in her through righteousness. Love, who makes her inebriated from the greater part of her beverage. Never will it be otherwise. It happens that there are several taps in the one barrel, but the clearest wine, the newest, the most profitable, the most delicious, and the most intoxicating is the wine from the tap at the top. This is the supreme beverage, which none drinks except the Trinity, and from this beverage, without her drinking of it, the annihilated soul is inebriated, the intoxicated, unencumbered soul, the drunken, forgotten soul, very inebriated, more than inebriated, from what she never drinks, nor ever will drink. Now hear and pay attention for the purpose of a greater clarification. In this barrel of divine beverage are, without fail, several taps. This is known to the humanity which is joined to the person of the Son of God, the humanity who drinks at the most noble tap after the Trinity. And the Virgin Mary drinks at one after, and this noble lady is intoxicated by the Most High, and after her the ardent seraphim drink, on the wings of whom these free souls fly. Holy Church then speaks, "Ah, dear God," says Holy Church, "how it is appropriate to love purely and guard closely such a soul who flies so high." Love responds, "Such a soul," says Love, "possesses memory, intellect, and will in an abyss through humility, and is highly penetrated with understanding through subtlety, and very free in all places by the love from the deity." That was where I left off chapter 23. It is a note that I don't know if the Dominican priests were known for it so much as the Catholic Church was known for producing its wine through casks, aging alcohol in casks. And so this whole process of tapping a cask, and at what point this cask is tapped, whether it be the bottom of the barrel, the middle of the barrel, or the top of the barrel, is the quality of the fermentation. So that's what it is describing, but in a more abstract way, in consideration that what is being tapped is divine love, and one can be inebriated on this divine love, which divine love seems to be a means. What did I say the last video? A flex seal. You can apply it to everything, and it can be applied to anything. And that's another part of the writing, is how would one go about providing a, how do you say that? A detailed roadmap to be able to acquire the same state of being if everything is so generally described. You can say, well, only those that are special enough can acquire it, because it is not described. And so no one can argue it if you did say that you acquired it, because there's no point to which it can be tested one way or the other. It's a generality, not a specificity. Also, it does have a point in which it says that the seraphim drinks after the annihilated soul and the annihilated soul before them. I had understood that she transforms into a seraphim. So the order of things is a bit bizarre, unless she's saying that she had transformed from a seraphim to a human, but there's this point where she's flying around between the 5th and the 6th stage. I'm confused. I'll probably remain confused. Chapter 24, and that's because, I lack knowledge, or I lack divine knowledge, or knowledge is bad. I don't know. Chapter 24, at what point such souls are in the righteous freeness of pure love? Which souls? Drunk ones? So Reason starts off, love, says Reason, when are such souls in the righteous freeness of pure love? Okay. Love says, when they possess neither desire nor feeling, nor at any time affection of spirit. For these things would enslave them, because it is too far from the peace of freeness where few folk allow themselves to remain. Also these souls, says Love, do nothing which would be contrary to the peace of the being of their interior, and so they carry in peace the ordinance of love. Such persons are so filled that they possess the design Sun, S-U-N, within themselves, without begging for anything beyond themselves, by which they can guard a purity of heart. And no others than they, says Love, have understanding of the greater part. And if they did not have understanding of it, they could beg for the lesser part, and still they would not have their sufficiency. Such souls are alone in all things, and common in all things. For they do not encumber their being on account of something which might happen to them. For as completely as the sun has light from God and shines on all things without taking any impurity into it, so also such souls have their being from God and in God without taking impurity into themselves on account of things which they might see or hear outside themselves. A part of me feels like I did actually read that, and I apologize if all of this has been repetitive. I'm doing my best, and it may be not the best. What is that sentiment? Doesn't it suck when your best is not good enough? It does. Okay, so they are so filled by what we do not know, but we can say divine love, as it has become a flex seal. So such souls are so filled by divine love that they now possess the divine Sun. Supercharge that battery. And if they possess a divine Sun within themselves, what is the scape by which they want, know, or could desire? Assuming desire is not synonymous with want. one would have to understand that if they have an entire fucking star inside of them, that wants and needs would be different from a general day-to-day life. And maybe that's what it's getting at. Although I'm not sure how one dictates the other, that having a sun inside of you, having divine sun inside of you because you're filled with divine love, results in a purity of heart. And also terrible metaphor, because sunspots and solar flares and, bad metaphor. I don't think the sun is pure. Plus, it's a dying star. I wonder if there is anything, though, that could be pure. Force in and of itself has got to be pure, Like, I was thinking, okay, so diamonds are made by force of gravity and incredible temperatures, heat. Which then led me to, and my brain isn't capable of perfectly conceptualizing this, but force in and of itself has got to be pure. Force of gravity, is force of gravity the only thing? Weight acting as a force, but weight could only act as a force if force of gravity existed, so force. Is magnetism force? Or does gravity only exist because of magnetism? Therein, is magnetism pure? Is it that only inanimate objects can be pure? Animate objects have impurities? Or all of this is based on the perception of humankind, and humankind can only see 0.005% of the light spectrum, which leaves 99.99% of things that humans don't perceive. At which point, does anyone that is human have any capacity to measure purity at all? No. So going back to it, divine love somehow makes you pure. Unless the argument is that divine love is attainable only through annihilation of the soul, and in you being annihilated thus arises the purity because, well, you don't exist, right? Okay, well, that was fun. So, chapter 25. Reason asks love if such souls feel any joy within themselves. Oh, it's plural. Any joys within themselves? And the first sentence will be reason asking exactly what the chapter is named. I'm sorry, I'm being a cunt. This was written in 1200. Who the fuck am I? I would not have done half as well. Sorry. Okay, so reason. Now tell me, love says reason, do such souls feel any joys within them or outside them? Love responds, not at all as regards your question, says love, because their nature is mortified and their spirit is dead. What? Now tell me, love says reason, do such souls feel any... Right. So it just called them dead. So all of my supposition up until this point, and my general anger, has been... Do they say vilified? Verified? Substantiated. Haha. 'Cause it says it's dead. For all will has departed from them, and on account of this such a soul lives and remains, and is, because of such mortification, in divine will. Okay. Well, I guess spirit is dead. If the spirit is dead, is the person dead? Are you your body or your mind or your soul? Is your mind created by the soul living through the body? And is the spirit synonymous with the soul, or is the spirit how one would describe someone? The spirit of something is the description of something. In a lot of conversations with people, you'll see one source, maybe not even in a direct conversation, but a topic can be discussed by one source over here and discussed by another source over here, and it be addressed knowing that both sources addressed it, by both sources understanding the other has discussed it. And in a general sort of way, people need to agree on a definition of something before they get into a discussion of that thing. Very often people will start discussing something and feel very strongly about this something, but the more you listen to either side, you'll realize that they define that something differently. So this very intense and heated discussion is nullified by the fact that neither one is actually talking about the same thing at all. And I have been forced to appreciate that language is forever changing, but I don't like it because I feel like there should be generally agreed upon rules for a definition of something. Otherwise, what is the point of talking at all? How do you communicate if the definition of something is perpetually changing? If no one can agree on what anything means, how do you communicate what you intend? Frustrated is what I am. Oh, right. Wasn't there a biblical story about that? Tower of Babel So, the metaphor is technology. Man progressed so much so and got along with one another to such an extent that they were building buildings that were so great. Their inventions were so great. They decided to get together and build a tower to heaven to reach the pinnacle of humanity and elevate themselves to the point of God is essentially what that means. And the god or gods saw it and said, fuck that shit, and decimated the tower and then scrambled the people and then fucked up their language so that neighbor shoulder to shoulder could not discuss anything with one another anymore. They each spoke a different language, so they couldn't get together to organize to be able to create another Tower of Babel. Babel being language. Yeah, so I appreciate that language is forever changing, but I don't like it. There should be generally agreed upon rules. Okay, forgive me, it's a hot topic, but it's the best word to use for it. Because I don't really have another word. Given that it is a hot topic, I don't have another word in my bank right now to pull from. Racism. Recently, the definition for racism has been confused with the definition for the word that implies that you honor your culture above other people's culture. Where racism initially was defined by essentially a superiority complex that you believed your genetic or the person in question believed that their genetic makeup was superior to any other genetic makeup. And these are two different words that have become fucked up and convoluted, because I think we're intelligent enough as a race of humans, especially with the advancement of technology, to get to a point where we understand that white and black are constructs, and humanity does not perfectly fit within these constructs, which then one would have to respect that what people are speaking on when they speak of superiority complexes is honoring one culture above another culture. Because what makes up white is multiple races, with many different cultures inclusive in those races. And yeah, so there's that. Brain just kind of fogged out there. Sorry. But that's my point entirely, is like if so you're going to have a discussion or an argument or whatever the fuck concerning the topic, then I think people do this in like official debates in high school maybe, where they clearly define the topic and the word, whatever it is, beforehand and then get into it. Because you could spend hours making your argument and then realize at the end of those hours that you guys weren't even talking about the same damn thing. That's gotta be frustrating. Sorry, I am still trying to think of another word that's been redefined as of recent, and there are so many, and my brain is not there. I'm sorry I chose a hot topic. But that's all my brain was capable of popping up. Going back to it. Dead, right. Soul, spirit. Okay. That's why I was bringing it up, is spirit, soul? What is spirit? But the spirit is dead. Annihilated soul. Okay, I think that this writing is making an attempt to have spirit and soul be anonymous. Okay, good God, brain. Synonymous. And so where it says spirit is dead and has concluded that it is also concerning an annihilated soul, annihilation can therein be understood to be synonymous with dead. Point being, the closest to God would be if you were dead. So this is, as I've said before, that the person writing this believes that you can kill yourself and still be alive. I believe that too, and I also think that it's not a good thing to do. How do I put that into words? In being human, there is immense power. Your actions are a cause and effect. Things are affected by any simple action that you have. You know, you go down the chain of events like the Rubberg or butterfly effect. You take a left turn. This person decides that because you turned left, they get a coffee. That getting a coffee gives somebody a tip that they would not have otherwise had, and that tip helps them buy a CD, and the buying that CD stops them from committing atrocities. I don't know. So all of this to say, every action you take has a ripple effect, and that ripple effect extends beyond oneself. So I don't think anyone should be nonchalantly going through life not paying attention to what it is they do. I mean, it would be maddening to pay attention to every single small thing you do in an attempt to control the outcome as much as is possible. It absolutely infuriatingly maddening. But there's got to be like a middle ground where you do hold yourself accountable to your own actions and understand that in taking any action, it is important to more than just yourself. So if you are deciding to stay alive but opting out of it simultaneously, the annihilated soul, I think not only is it wildly irresponsible and insulting to the God that would have created you, but it affects more than just you. And when I say wildly irresponsible, I guess that's inclusive of the explanation saying it affects more than just you. It's a pattern that once you commit to is hard to undo. You have to introduce another pattern, and there's a lot of heartbreak involved. So, I know that life is not easy to live, but I think that sometimes the struggles are worth learning from. But it is all subjective, and I am not an objective viewer of anything and cannot say that I have an answer for anything. I just think that if you have the option, there are days you will enjoy past the one that you do not. There was a question I drunkenly asked people at a bar that I probably shouldn't have been in the first place. What length would you go to make your life feel valuable? If you learn about random people in history and actually go into the details of their life, you can find absurdism everywhere, because hindsight is 20/20. In actions that have already happened, you get to see how they played out. The futility in most things. At which point, how far does the human have a tendency to go to make its life feel valuable, and how far did it actually need to go to feel value? Value is subjective. I don't oftentimes have the ability to understand, appreciate, or feel joy. I don't produce the chemicals necessary for it often, or enough of them, but it doesn't make me feel like it's somehow a better life. Not feeling the joy and thus not feeling the contrast of it, because it's all just blurred at that point, I may not need the heightened sense, but to me, calm and comfort and peace and safety, these are joys. And I can enjoy those. And I guess that may be earlier define the word before getting into discussing it. How do you define joy? That might be something that's important to do. Because this has also discussed that, it feels fulfilled because its will is in line with God's will. Would that not be enjoying something? I think this writing is crossing its own logic again here. For all will has departed from them, and on account of this such a soul lives and remains and is, because of such mortification in divine will. Now listen, reason, says love, in order to grasp better your question. That which burns has no cold, and the one who swims has no thirst. Bullshit. I get really thirsty when I swim. Thus such a soul, says love, is so inflamed in the furnace of the fire of love that she has become properly fire. Alright, the transformation. Which is why she feels no fire. What if she was psychic? Because she was so obtusely obsessed with fire. For she is fire in herself through the power of love, who transforms her into the fire of love. This fire burns of itself in all places and in all moments of an hour, without consuming any matter, nor is it able to will to consume beyond itself, For whoever feels something of God through matter which he sees or hears outside himself, the he is whomever, not God, right? Because of work which he does by himself, this is not the total fire. That doesn't make sense. This is not the total fire. This fire burns of itself. This is not the total fire. Is the total fire God? Oh, okay, this may again just be poorly translated or lost in translation. I think total fire is supposed to be a state indicative of being totally involved with God, and they're on fire through God and transformed by the fire. So doing works outside of God, feeling anything outside of that is not being of that godly fire, thus the total fire. Instead, there is matter along with such fire. Interesting. So, this analogy has become complex. Is God an energy source in this analogy? And therein, when there is matter in the fire and it is burning something, is it burning the human and the human deeds? Or is it burning an energy source that is not constantly refilling itself through God? Especially 1200, they would have used, wood burning stoves. I guess that would be a question for the author. Are you assuming that God is an energy source? Okay, for human labor and the desire to have matter beyond the self in order to increase the love of God within is only blindness about the understanding of the goodness of God. Now they're blind and on fire. But the one who burns with this fire without seeking matter and without having it and without willing to possess it, the fire or the matter, sees clearly in all things that he consumes things consumes things according to the way one ought to consume them. For such a soul has no matter within her which impedes her from seeing clearly, since she is alone in him by the virtue of true humility. This feels very much like when the woman said Kim Jong-il does not have a butthole because all of the energy is used. By the virtue of true humility. And she is common to all things through the largesse of perfect charity, and alone in God through the divine enterprise of fine love, enterprise giving. Okay, so that was chapter 24 and 25. And my brain feels like cement. So, gonna call it there. Understand the bookmark in the future. I'll do my best. So yeah, I ranted, and sorry if my rant was unclear. I did my best. Okay, well, take care of yourselves, and do your best to feel well. Eat well, drink well, sleep well, and be well. Take a walk. Produce endorphins. Good stuff. Alrighty. Bye-bye.